Boom.
Boom.
Welcome everybody to the Build and Grow with Real Estate show. My name is Judah Hoover, and this right over here is Josh Weidman. We come to you every day at noon and talk about real estate related topics, specifically the show is basically for four groups of people. If you're a real estate investor, if you are a realtor, if you own your home or rent your home, there's good content here for you. Those are basically the four groups of people. So homeowners, renters, real estate investors, and realtors.
If you're just looking for some great entertainment,
right.
Jump on here. Come on.
Not a homeowner, not a renter, just the homeless dude on the street looking to get some chuckles in. Give us a listen, and hopefully we can brighten your day up. Though not today on Fridays. Fridays not particularly known for brightening your day.
Listen, we have breaking news today that's going to blow your mind. It's the last story of the day, but we're going to release a piece of footage.
Yes.
On the show that's going to blow your mind.
Right. So yesterday we had a great show. Yesterday we had a fabulous show. We talked about, we wrapped up our market cycles talking with Jason Sanseverino. The shows this week have been absolutely great, very timely content, talking about where we are in the market cycles, explaining market cycles, talking about what's coming next. And I'm really, really happy about that. This is episode number 93 of the Build and Grow with Real Estate show. I have a special plea to our dear listeners. If you're out there, if you could please like and share the show, that would be great, because Facebook feels that we are spamming people right now, and that that our show does not conform to their community standards, which is odd because we usually don't talk about anything too dicey or racy or anything like that. So if you like the show, specifically today, if you could give us a share and say something nice about the show, that would be very meaningful to us. Dude,
Jeremy Bayshore. Jeremy, I think you have a diamond as like a
where his heart should be. Where his heart should be, there's actually a diamond. The Grinch has a heart that's two sizes too small. Jeremy Bayshore, a diamond right where his heart belongs.
Dude, what I was trying to say is he's comments so much, he's on so much, he's following our show so much that like when he comments on Facebook, he's got a little diamond because he's like an all-star fan. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
All right. So listen, here's the deal, guys. Today we jump into news. All week long, we're talking about real estate. We continue talking about real estate. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we come strong with content and education. This week, we talked about market cycles. We started the week talking about what's a market cycle look like, and then got into where we are. Dug a little bit deeper on Wednesday. And then yesterday, we talked about short sales because guess what?
They're coming.
Short sales are coming.
One thing that we talked about, here's a piece of content for everybody that I think is important before we get into the news. One of the things that we talked about after the show yesterday was how it doesn't matter what's coming next. Like we talk about where we are and we talk about how to do deals now. We talk about what's coming next. We talk about how to do deals coming next. And the real estate market might be good. The real estate market might be bad in what's coming next. The bottom line is do deals. There's always going to be ways to do deals. You might need to be flexible. Yellow letters might stop working. They might start shooting people when they hang up bandit signs. They might make cold calling totally illegal or whatever. But there's always going to be deals to do. There's always going to be a way to market and find deals. The market is always going to need your services. You might need to tweak what your services are, but if you're a real estate investor out there, have an abundance mindset, an abundance mentality, not a scarcity mindset, and you will do well no matter what's coming.
Well, and you know what? Think about it like this. If you're in the stock market and prices are going up, right? There are people that are day trading, they're buying and selling and buying and selling. But you can make just as much money when the market's going down, and more so.
Right.
Unless
when the market's going up, you purchase and you do options. When the market's going down, you do shorts and you do puts. It's that easy.
All right. So look, first news point of the day, evictions. Evictions. We've got what, 10 days? 10 days from today. Evictions are back on the block in Pennsylvania. The
Allegedly.
the
Supposedly.
moratorium is over. What's that?
Allegedly. Supposedly.
This is you're taking the words out of my mouth there,
Okay.
Judah. Come on now. All right. So the ban ends on August 31st, just like in the beginning of July when it was supposed to expire. What, like it was like July 4th or something, like, or July 7th or something like that. All these landlords are like, finally, I can get rid of this guy who's been, giving me the finger and closing the door every time I come over. They're ready to move forward with evictions, but there's just a week left or so for some pending legislation. There's HUD has indicated that they are going to extend FHA, the FHA foreclosure and eviction moratorium until the end of September. I mean, there's been talk about that, but nothing's done yet. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if you watched the show before, you know that I think that the longer this goes on, the worse it is for housing. The bigger the bubble gets, and then when it pops, the sky's falling down. But we'll see what happens. I think that there is really some legitimate arguments and legitimate conversation that has to go on. What do you do with 20 million households that get evicted? Where do they go? And I think that's something that is going to be on the chopping block and at least in conversation moving forward. Judah, what do you think about? You want to move into news point 2, or do you have any comments on the moratorium?
No, I think, unfortunately, about the moratorium that we have to take a very much a wait and see approach to it. And I think that, listen, Jesus loves everybody, and I have a big heart for everybody. Don't get me wrong, okay? But we've got to be able to evict the bad apples, or we're just in trouble. I had a realtor investor friend of mine call me yesterday and just begging me to be able to evict the tenant who's yelling and screaming in the background. Sent me pictures of this place. It does not look good. And right now, we can't do anything to get rid of this person who is doing damage to his property.
I got to throw something in that I read this week. It was hilarious. So this French landlord, he moves this guy into his apartment, and apparently evictions in France are really tough. It took him 14 months to evict the tenant, right? They moved in, they paid their security deposit, never made another payment.
Right.
And then when we got the thing back, the place was trashed. Right. Now, and I'm not talking about the trash that you see in horror flicks where there's like holes in walls and the house about to collapse. But it was trash. Like they did a really poor job of maintenance, and just cleaning the place. They left half their furniture. There was feces, animal feces all over the floor. So this landlord, he was infuriated. He calls his attorney, makes sure his plan to get back at these people will work. He says, yeah, you can do it. It's within the law. He finds out where their new apartment is, loads everything up in a dump truck, drives over to their place, and dumps all of their belongings right in front of the front door.
Giving it back to him.
He said, listen, I don't want to keep any of your stuff. You forgot this.
Right.
I mean, you feel for him. Now, at the same time,
recent story? Is that a recent story?
It was just, I saw it yesterday.
Because I got to tell you, I have daydreams about doing that to some tenants. There is, I got to tell you, I would absolutely love that. The difference is I wouldn't check with my attorney first. I would just do it and say, yeah, go ahead and sue me over this. I dare you.
The problem is you'd be the one in handcuffs. You'd be the one having to pay to clean that up. But that's fine for them to leave all their crap at your place.
Right.
All right. Let's talk new construction housing starts. We touched on this yesterday a little bit. Really, really good news with new construction. Starts are up 23% in July over June. It's really good. I think we can bet that August is going to see the same type of increases.
Right. And so this means that we are going to have a seasonally adjusted, if we keep on doing the pay. And here's the thing is I used to never understand seasonally adjusted and why that was important. because obviously we build more houses in the spring, summer, and fall than we do in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So we have to take the pace of housing and extrapolate out, okay, so probably by the end of the year, what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be as much building in November and December. So right now, what that means is we are probably going to construct all just shy of 1 million new homes in America. Now, whenever I buy a new shirt, I throw 2 or 3 shirts out, or I buy, 2 or 3 new shirts and I throw a shirt out. We are building a new home and keeping the old ones. You understand what I'm saying here, dear listeners? This is a big deal because we are adding a whole lot of inventory. The question is, are we adding inventory fast enough, or are we adding inventory too fast to actually create a housing bubble? But at this point, we need a whole lot more housing than what we have in this country.
Well, and so this is what's interesting if you dig into these numbers a little bit more. While new construction starts are up 23%, single family new construction is only up 8.2%. Most of that increase is in the multifamily construction. And so I think this is actually a really smart move by builders in that they're building multifamilies knowing that, hey, where we are in the market cycle, if this continues, by the time we're done, we can sell these things off in condos. And if we're not, we're not there anymore, well, hey, I got a great brand new rental property with, a bunch of units here. That is a really, really smart, an investment side, for the builders. So one thing that I took out of some of my research is that lumber prices went up 110% in April, which has driven up the cost of a single family home by $14,000. So Chris Gaines mentioned earlier this week that, look, $100,000 spikes in that new construction neighborhood near his place. Well, maybe they're just absorbing the added cost,
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of facetiousness there, but I think that that's actually a good thing because that's going to drive the inflation that this economy so desperately needs right now.
That's right. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. All right.
Too much inflation is not a good thing. Too much inflation over too long a period is definitely a problem. This economy has had too little inflation for the last 10 years, and it is causing problems that actually very much concern me.
It's been too good of a time for savers.
Right.
All right. So we got refinance applications. Man, FHFA, doggone those guys. They're driving up the cost of refinances. What is that? About 7 basis points?
Right.
So the cost of a 30-year fixed mortgage rate jumped from 3.06% to 3.13% over the past week. It drove down the demand significantly. Refinances are 5% lower. And what's really significant is that even though we're up year over year, 38% from the same time last year for that refinance, last week
a week ago we were up 100% year over year. 100%. Now we're so see. I mean, but who knows what the week? I mean, just like we're seeing, if you watch these mortgage numbers, which I used to, it can really fluctuate week to week. You know what I mean? And so if you've got, numbers that do this, that gap can look bigger or smaller because of a jump that happened last week in the up or down market, depending on which way things went. So the trend is still that we're seeing a lot more refinances. And I think that we're probably going to see that continue because a lot of people are going to be rushing to get their refinances done before the COVID tax hits.
Yeah.
Which I've seen a lot more news stories about recently, which most of our dear listeners learned about right here on this show.
All right. New purchase applications up 1% this week from last week. That's really nice. And they're up 27% from this time last year. That's not surprising at all. People are getting their house in order and getting ready to to rock and roll and purchase.
Right.
All right, so let's take a look at some not so good news. New jobless claims. We're back up over 1 million. It was, man, 21 weeks. We got 20 weeks over 1 million new claims. 1.1 million this week. Last week we had like 960,000 or something like that.
Right.
About right.
Look at how this chart is going. We fall through April. We have a little uptick in May. We stabilize through stabilize through June, and even a little bit up there. And then in July we come back down, and then a little uptick in August. We're doing this. I like the flow of this chart, and I'm not concerned yet.
This kind of looks like a roller coaster to me. It looks like a really exciting roller coaster with the ups and downs.
It's a fun roller coaster, Josh. We're going in the right direction.
It's true. My concern, though, is you look at these little bars back in the beginning of March.
Yeah.
And I mean, they look like little step stools, and then we got a mountain in front of us, and that's really what we're looking at. I mean, what do they say? 22 million jobs lost. There were 9 million created. Is that right? 22 million jobs and something like 9 million created in the last 90 days, which is not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And what I love, the other thing that I really love is your third bullet point there. And this is not insignificant because we saw a spike in first-time jobless claims, or initial jobless claims as it's called, but total jobless claims, because obviously people are on unemployment for more than just a week or two. So total jobless claims went down from 5.5 to 4.8, not quite a million. There's a million fewer people unemployed this week than there was last week. That's not bad.
No, we'll take it. We'll take it.
1 million more people have a job this week than last week. That's a good thing.
So current unemployment at 10.2%. Not a rosy picture. Thankfully, we don't have breadlines yet. That's a good thing.
We're never going to have breadlines again. It's one of the funny things that, during the Obama years, I had to point out to all my liberal friends is that, we should have breadlines. We should be seeing breadlines, but the government has decided to give people checks, not hand them out, bread. And so if 10% of the public was getting government bread and government cheese instead of getting, checks from the government, there would be breadlines, and those would make much more fascinating news stories, believe me. All
right. Some very interesting news from the Federal Housing Authority this week. They released some numbers on their the number of mortgages that are delinquent right now. 16%, nearly 16%, of all of FHA mortgages are delinquent. That's the highest on record since they started tracking in 1979. And it really adds to the conversation about, what does the first time home buyer market look like as we continue to progress here with unemployment. I mean, we've talked numerous times about that market being affected by, jobless claims, by, changes.
Well, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about this, Josh, if I can get on a soapbox for just a second. So raise your hand if you've ever had an FHA lending license. Okay. So I had my FHA lending license for about 10 years. It is a very difficult license to get. It is a very difficult license to maintain. I had to submit audit. People talk about how much they hate when their taxes get audited.
Yeah.
How cute, how quaint. I had not my taxes audited by FHA every year. I had to submit audited financials, which means every year I had to pay a CPA between $5,000 and $12,000 to rebalance my checkbook, say that they agreed with it, and we would send that to FHA and the comptroller of the currency and the Department of Banking, and I was regulated by 3 local agencies, 3 state agencies, and 5 national agencies. Here's the thing that FHA looks at is not just what's our total delinquency, but they also break it down on a licensing level. So if their total delinquency is 16%, they're going to drill down into that and they're going to say, okay, Josh, you're an FHA licensee, and the loans that you send us have a 20% delinquency, but the
Right.
loans that Judah sends us have a 12% delinquency. Josh, we are now suspending your FHA license.
That's nice of
So,
them.
so what that's going to cause is two things. It's going to cause consumers to have less options.
Yep.
That causes, fees and things like that to go up. So rates are going to stay the same, but fees go up as you have lower options. The other thing that it's going to cause is this. It's going to say, oh, well, how was Judah underwriting loans? Well, Judah was underwriting loans more conservatively than Josh was. So not only does that reinforce that behavior for me, and I'm going to get bigger because I'm going to pick up some of your market share, but everybody else out there in the market is going to take a clue from Judah and not take a clue from Josh. So as FHA licensees get scrutinized because of this uptick, we're going to see lending tighten because if FHA sets a rule like, I don't know, you can't have a bankruptcy in the past 7 years.
Right.
Well, I can have an overlay that says you can't have a bankruptcy in the past, 5 years. If FHA wants me to submit 2 months of bank statements, I can have an overlay that says in order for you to get a loan through me, I've got to look at 3 months of bank statements.
Right.
So there's these overlays that come into place that individual lenders come out with because they're worried about their individual default rate. Does that make sense?
Sure. Of course it does. Well, so this is the crazy part about this. And I mean, I think that, well, all week we talked about the cause and effect of the housing cycle and why it happens. And sometimes, it's new construction. Sometimes it's financing. Sometimes it's a chicken or an egg thing, right?
Right.
But
sometimes it both happen at the same time.
That's right. At the tail end of a cycle, you've got all of the qualified borrowers have already gone through the vast majority of qualified borrowers have already gone through their refinance. They've gotten their cash. They bought their new home. Now you've got a little bit less qualified borrowers, and then a little bit less and a little bit less. We get to the point where FHA is pushing home ownership in a time when they shouldn't be, and the reality is this is probably just another indicator of where we are in our current housing cycle. There will be some adjustments. FHA will bump their minimum down payment to 7%, and then half of the borrowers will fall out of the market. We'll go through the whole cycle again, and
it doesn't even have to come from FHA. That's the point. Is it de facto will come from the individual licensees trying to protect their individual delinquency rate because they don't want to be the guy that gets their FHA license pulled because of how much business they're doing with their FHA license.
That's
so,
right.
So I think that we talked about this also after the show yesterday, Josh. I think it was you or Jason Sanseverino who said, hey, it's not a matter of when do we overinflate and overbuild housing. It's also when do we come to the end of qualified buyers
Right.
who are able to buy. So that's good commentary.
There we go. All right. Congratulations to Joe Biden this week. Right. Joe Biden was nominated by the Democratic Party as the presidential candidate. That's some serious news. Whether you are planning to vote for him or not, whether you watched all of the Democratic convention or not, I think one takeaway, you pointed this out really well, Judah, for the show. One of the big takeaways here, it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with our current world. If you can run a huge convention with nobody being there, what is the value of these large conventions at this point?
Well, that's the problem is, I like politics and I like discussing politics dispassionately, even with people on the other side of the political spectrum than me. And one of the things that was always fun when you study political history is these conventions were where deals were made, were where, you would have rival factions within the party and you didn't know who was going to be the party's nominee. And the fact that that doesn't happen at all now is really exemplified by the fact that we don't even need to get together, and this is all basically just a televised event. So
What?
yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens, and we'll have to see, kind of how it was presented very much as a positive thing, and the overall convention was discussed in glowing terms and things like that by the news media. It'll be interesting to see whether the same thing happens. Probably won't when the GOP has their convention. The other thing that's interesting and noteworthy about this, and give the man his due, his run for president. This is his third time running for president, and it's the first time that he's secured his party's nomination. So
Yep.
he is now the nominee of a major political party, that trumps him being, Senator Joe Biden. He is now, and Vice President Joe Biden. He is now presidential candidate Joe Biden, and that is that is a new political high for him.
It is. You look back in history. I don't know if how close you follow historical politics, but JFK, when he won the election, he wasn't winning most of the primaries. It was negotiated at the convention. It was like a lot of.
He also didn't announce until like February or March.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it was late in the year that he even announced.
Well, and there was a couple articles that I read over the last week or so about there were a few delegates that wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders,
right?
At the Democratic
convention.
Convention.
The Supreme Court has recently said, no faithless electors, which is something that I agree with. I do not like faithless electors. And I like this, and I like the Electoral College, but we will to have that conversation at a different time. So yeah, so back when JFK was running, and back in the 60s and 50s, and even in that time, it's funny. Politicians spent more of their time governing instead of just running for office. They did this quaint thing where they would get together and they would decide what's best for the nation, whether we should be a little bit more political conservative on this topic, or a little bit more liberal, a little bit more government intervention, a little bit less. And they thought about what was in the best interests of the voters. That little thing that they used to do.
I know. All right.
Two more stories, ladies and gentlemen, and both of them are pretty cool.
Two more stories, and then before we get to the news of the day. All right.
Oh, yeah, two more stories, and then your shock piece at the end. Right.
Right. Okay. So the Federal Reserve has teamed up with MIT to develop a digital currency for the U.S. Economy. Right. Now, at this point,
I don't understand this, Weidman. You've got to explain this to me, because, I think digital currencies like Bitcoin and a couple others that aren't household names that are out there that people who trade in these things know about. And it's funny, there's always the next Bitcoin coming. So, I mean, it seems to me that the benefit of a digital currency is that it's not the dollar. The benefit of the digital currency is that it's not controlled by the Fed, the creature from Jekyll Island, as it is so oftentimes derisively called. I'm a fan of the Fed, and we'll talk about that, a different time. But so why would the Fed be coming up with something that's main point is to be anti the Fed? Does that make sense?
Well, so I don't think that that's the point. I think they see history, and they see the projection of history, where things are going, and they don't want to be left behind. And I think that by presenting themselves with their own currency, it's going to legitimize it. And now all of a sudden, look, this is not going to be crypto. It will probably not. There might be some blockchain associated with it, but this is not going to be.
You're talking about a digital currency. So the thing that I need to understand, and probably some of our listeners have made this mistake if I have, there's a difference. You're saying there's a difference between a cryptocurrency and a digital currency.
No, I don't know that there. I don't know. This is what I guess where I'm at. All right. I think that right now, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government, we spend a lot of money just printing money, right? whether you believe that this coin shortage was fabricated or not, or whatever, it costs money to to come up with new and uncounterfeitable currency, that's not constantly knocked off. If you can come up with something with blockchain, blockchain essentially it keeps a record of all of the transactions.
Yeah.
With that currency. So there's some advantages there. The disadvantage is if you are a criminal or you're doing something that, you don't want people to know about, it's unlikely that, that this currency is going to have the lack of, the lack of the ability to track and, the anonymity.
Cash is the same way. We forget that for generations, criminals did business in cash because it was untraceable. It was only in the 70s and 80s where they were like, hey, let's try to push more towards digital currency so that we can, just decide, oh, Josh, we don't like your, that you're doing XYZ, bank accounts frozen. Whereas when people are doing business in cash, it's a little bit harder to do that.
Well, so think about this as a digital currency, though, controlled by a central bank. If they don't like what you're doing, they can just turn off your currency or make it worth zero, or make it disappear. That's putting a heck of a lot of power in the hands of the central bank. My first introduction to Bitcoin was when I had an intern that worked for me that went to Temple, and on her last day of the job, throughout her employment, she always was telling me, oh, I'm buying Bitcoin, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. She's following the price of it. Come to find out, her boyfriend sold drugs and would he would use Bitcoin to buy drugs online and have them to him and sell them. And like, geez, this is insane. And it made a heck of a lot of sense when she explained it to me that, okay, that's why there's value there. But at the end of the day, like, I think that, it's just, I don't know. At the end of the day, that kind of anonymity and that kind of illegal transaction is going to disappear, so that you're still going to have, cryptocurrency out there that's being used on the secondary and, black markets. What's Bitcoin right now? It was like $16,000 the other day. It's nuts. All right. Enough of that fake money. Let's talk about some other fake money. Tesla right now. My goodness, last week we talked about Tesla being at about 1,500 a share. Since they announced their 5-to-1 stock split, the stock soared 50%.
Right. Stock is up 50%. And since the time that they have made that, it is closed over $2,000 per share for the first time on Thursday. And it's got a market capitalization. That means like how much all their stock out there is worth, and their physical assets too. But how much all their stock is worth is $400 billion.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah. Now the other thing here is
more than Walmart. Than Walmart. Yeah.
Right. Their stock rally is also been. It's not just that they're doing a split and that there's all these speculators out there. They've also announced that that they've got a quantum leap coming forward in shortly in driverless technology.
Yep.
And Elon Musk has said that he predicts a quote unquote fleet. Who knows how big that is, or whether it'll just be California or San Francisco or whatever, of driverless taxis within a year.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's also a little eerie. But that's real technology. And when Facebook first went public, and what was their market cap on their IPO? It was like 100 million, and then it dropped from there. And people said, how are they going to make money and all this and that.
Right.
It seems like people have forgotten that company. What was it? WeWork, something like that. They forgot about these companies that they have these fabricated values. And look, I'm a huge Elon Musk fan, but this is pretty nuts that they got a market cap higher than any other car company in the world. They're higher than Walmart.
Higher than like any other 3 or 4 car companies put together.
Right. And I think it's a lot of speculation on a shift in in transportation, really. And it's like, look, these guys have, they've got their foot in the door. They're leading the way in transforming the industry. And
Well, and we didn't talk about this. We didn't have it on our list, but Uber and Lyft are currently fighting it out in California with California. Uber and Lyft, famous rivals, are on the same side of the issue. And what's going on is, they've been California said no, those are employees. You have to treat them like employees. Uber and Lyft have said no, these are independent contractors. And we're in the technology business. We're not in the transportation business. So therefore, they're not core employees. So their core function doesn't, impact our business. And California said you have 10 days to comply.
right.
That 10 days was up last night at midnight. And then several hours later, they came back out and gave them another 10 days. So it's going to be.
Lyft pulled out of California. Lyft was like, okay, we'll just leave.
Well, they're both threatening it. I didn't know that Lyft actually did it. Did Lyft actually pull out of California?
I'm out. So think about the impact that this has. You have people that are actually making money as subcontractors.
Right.
They've got a job. The government says, doggone it, I don't like the way you're running your business. We want our payroll taxes. So, you got to make these people employees. They say we can't make money doing that. So we're just going to leave. So who benefits? You don't have the payroll taxes. You don't have the employment, and you don't have these people coming and pick you up at your door. It's insane.
Right. Or the bar taking you home, fighting drunk driving, which it's really interesting to me. Like, this is why I always am a little bit nervous when people start talking about what the studies show. Do you know that there's not one conclusive study that shows that Uber and Lyft have meaningfully affected drunk driving and things like that?
That's because people are still stupid,
I guess.
Come on.
I just know so many people who, if it takes them 5 drinks to get drunk, if they have a drink or two, they're like, great, I'm just going to get an Uber. You know what I mean? There is so much less drinking and driving going on now than there used to be, but it doesn't always show up in studies.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Our final news story of the day. Thanks for hanging in there to the end. On what's today? Friday. On Wednesday evening, Russian cosmonaut, where is it? Ivan Vanger posted a short little video on Twitter of, apparently he's sitting up in the International Space Station looking out the window, and he sees the northern lights over Antarctica, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to take a video of this. So he gets out the camera and he starts videotaping. And it's a 1 minute long video, which we truncated, but you're seeing it here first. It seems to be
an alien spaceship.
Some sort of UFO, unidentified flying object, flying out the window. Now, this clip, it's about 20 seconds. The UFO shows up at the end. I'm going to put it on here, and then we'll see what you think. Hold on here. Ready? All right.
Initial commentary. I love that you decided to use Titanic music as the background. That was.
Look, I had short time. I just clipped the video.
Stellar choice.
I just clipped the video online, and the original video, it's a minute long. So, the first time I watched it, I got about 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, this has got to be a hoax, and then I just. Right. Out of it, and then I read the article and said, oh, it's at the end. So, but I did put the red arrow up there so everybody could see it. I mean, you watch it a couple times. I mean, I'm telling you.
So the first time I watched it, it looked like it was like a broken up comet or something like that going through, and then I realized, oh, this is it's like a spaceship, and those are the portals on the windows and lights and stuff like that.
Telling you.
I don't know. I think I'm with super fan Jeremy Bayshore here on this one. Not sold.
Dude, Jeremy, you're kicked off. I'm taking your diamond away. I'm telling you, you saw it here first. I called it. 2020. We've got, disclosure from the Air Force earlier this year, which we covered on a Friday End of the World show, right?
Yeah.
We've got COVID, social disrest, economic turmoil, a presidential election, and now aliens.
Yep.
Dude, it is the end of the world. Thanks for joining us on today's show.
We will be back on Monday. What we're going to do is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to do content. Then on Wednesday, on Thursday, we're going to have a kick-ass guest. And on Friday, we are going to do another news wrap-up. Thanks, everybody, for being here. My name is Judah Hoover. This is Josh Weidman, and this is the Build and Grow with Real Estate show.
Have a great weekend, guys.